What's up, you guys? My name is CyberSnowolf, and welcome back to another episode of LEGO Arts. So, in the last episode, we did a showcase on the Batman in celebration for the movie coming out this year. And for this episode, we are finally beginning part 1 on Spider-Man No Way Home. So, as you can see, for part 1, we have all of our 3 Spideys here. And he's here in their iconic suits, and not just this movie, but in all the other variations that they have come in. So, originally, the showcase was going to be much larger. In fact, this whole episode was going to be showcasing all of them, including, the Sinister Six, as well as, a few extra characters here and there. But, unfortunately, I've had to push that back a bit because certain parts have been, delayed on arriving, and I finally gotten started on doing Lizard and Electro, so they're still under construction, but I finally figured out how I'm going to proceed with those guys. So they're in the works right now, and with the other ones, I wanted to do them all together as separate as a whole. But I finally decided you know what? It'll be easier if I divide it up into components, so that way not only is the episode dragging out for much longer than it usually is, which I have gotten better at that, but this way I can focus on specific portions of each of the figures. So I decided to go ahead and do that route, and I think it'll turn out better. So, if you guys aren't familiar with this, we're going to basically take these minifigures one at a time, do review them, explain my process, why with this route, and then go from there. So, without further ado, let's get the pistol out and get the showcase on the road. To start off our showcase, we have the MCU Tom Holland Spider-Man. Iron Man. Here he is in his integration suit. I'm not gonna lie, at first when I saw this, I wasn't too big of a fan of the suit. I guess I didn't really like the gold mixed in with the red and black. And the design was kind of weird. But the more I looked at it, the more it kind of grew on me. So I decided you know what? Let's go ahead and make this suit. So when doing this figure, I pretty much went with the same route how I did with the Homecoming suit and the Far From Home suit, for where I used the official Lego minifigure and just built around it. So you can see torso is pretty much the same. The legs I added on the webbing detailing on his feet. Same thing with the gold metal integration, and continued it on all the way around to the back of the legs. You can see it's not too perfect, but that's sort of the downfall when I tried to do webbing hand detailing. It gets kind of a pain every now and then. But the hands, these are actually really, really cool. So these arms are from Farstar Toys. Where they did printed arms, as well as from Far From Home, and I saw those and I'm like, oh, those look really, really cool. I really want to use those. So I went ahead and bought a pair as well as the Far From Home arms, and used those for the figure, and I think they look pretty cool. It really gives an idea that if Lego did actually put on printed detailing on the arms, how they did with the Homecoming suit. I think it would look something similar to this. It looks pretty cool. And it actually kind of lines up pretty well with the whole suit. So I do like it. The head is a new approach that I was doing. So I've been trying to experiment with new ideas of how to do Spider-Man heads, because while my method, I do like it, I am looking to sort of expand my horizons just a bit, especially with the lenses. I've gotten better with the web detailing, especially since I switched to marker instead of taking a paintbrush and trying to add that all on. It was a very messy method. I didn't like it, so I've expanded on it, and while it's okay, I was still looking room for improvements, especially with the lenses. So the original painted up head, I originally went with how I usually do, painted up a face form and everything, but I didn't like how the lenses came out. And then one day when I got a shipment, and when I got one of my purchases from Nate's Minifigs, it came in with an extra Spider-Man head. So I decided to play around with it. I was gonna use the mask to sort of to see the different variations of Spidey heads, because a lot of customizers have made different variations. So I thought that could work. But unfortunately, the mask that I got was very loose. It did not fit on the head. So it's okay, so what do I do with this? So I then decided to play with an experiment where I basically took my buzzsaw attachment on my Dremel tool, cut the mask out, specifically at the lenses, drilled in a hole in the original head, and then just stuck the lenses inside it. Was this method correct? I'm honestly not sure. I'm not gonna lie. I'm mixed in between of how it looks, because it kind of looks good, but at the same time, not so much. Maybe if the webbing was a bit smaller, it'd look better. It would stand out more, or if I did it on a different head, head. It's a potential idea, but I don't know if I'll try to repeat it again. Again, I'm trying to find like new ways of how I could expand more on Spidey heads, but this was sort of like one of the many ideas that I had. I don't hate it, but there is room for improvement. And speaking of heads, just gonna do a couple of things here. As you can see, like, I do have official Lego head, which still works pretty well. Like, we actually have the heads this time. I know I usually just cover the clay on here and paints up the webbing, but decided to expand on that. And I also purchased, after I purchased the arms, I also purchased these Firestar toy heads. And so they did in celebration of the movie. So we can see here we have a Tom Holland head, and I actually used like one of the extra hair pieces from the Batman minifigures that I reviewed a while back. And this is really cool. So on the front, we get sort of like the happy Peter Parker face, and remove that. And on the back, we get his bruised battle damage face that really gets that sort of like battle ready, hardened warrior kind of expression. And I think it works really, really good. I think this captures Tom Holland's likeness fairly well, like a bit more than like official Lego with like the what if zombie hunter Spider-Man minifigure. I don't hate it, but I definitely think this matches up a bit more with Tom Holland's likeness. It almost reminds me a little bit, especially with the smile, it almost reminds me a little bit of Phoenix Customs renditions of Tom Holland, which works pretty good. And overall, I really like this figure. I could have done better on the legs, like fixed up the webbing, or maybe I've used like a different pair of legs, like maybe from like a knockoff minifigure. But that'll probably be something I'll add in the future. Overall, I really like how this figure came out. And with like the full, complete rendition of it, it still works pretty cool. Next up on our list is Webverse Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man in his Amazing Spider-Man 2 outfit. This was a pretty cool figure. And not entirely of my own doing. So the head was definitely my own doing, but the rest of the figure was actually a special request. So a while back, so like a few months ago, one of the customizers that I follow by the name of Fig Fab Labs, or formerly Minifig Madness, they were doing a commission poll for where people could come and could like message them and request for like commission pieces. This is about like 3 to 4. So I figured like, why not? I think it'd be pretty fun. So I requested them to do like 3 Spider-Man minifigures. 2 of them you'll see in this video, and the other one you'll see in, I think, in like the 3rd part of the showcase. But I requested them to do some Spider-Man figures, and I requested them to do this one and the other figure. And the way how they did this was really, really cool. When it comes to customizing printing, I usually prefer pad printing because it's like more smooth. But they use UV printing. It's not terrible, and it feels kind of cool. Especially with like the mesh printing on the side, with like the blue, and everything. And I do like how the webbing does pop out a little bit. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty cool. And I also like about this is that the webbing, that the printing continues all the way around the figure. So you can see like on the sides, on the waist, the back of the torso, the back of the legs. The only place for where it hasn't really gone is the inside of the legs, and I guess like the top part of the legs, which I'm kind of, which like my one takeaway with this was, it would be like, I wish that they did continue on all the way around the legs, but I guess that would have resulted in like some of the printing being chipped off, which that is sort of like a thing that will happen here and there. But other than that, this is still a pretty cool figure. And also, of course, printing on the sides, very nice. So the webbing on the head, like, again, webbing, it's still a practice run for me. The lenses, I don't hate them too much, but definitely could have been slightly improved. I think I just made them a bit too big on the end, and like, again, it looks fine, but there is definitely room for improvement. Like, hang on, if I remove this head for a second, I'll have like the original head that came with it, like the original head. And so we slap this on. As you can see, I tried to replicate the lens, these lenses. I even used this as a reference. But it didn't quite work out pretty well. Again, like, it's not too terrible. There's always room for improvement when it comes to this stuff. Amazingly, though, that with this head, unlike like official Lego, the printing doesn't continue all the way around the head. I don't know if that was sort of a time saver, or they just decided to move past that. I did like the printing on with the lenses. They look really, really cool and pretty accurate. accurate, but I kind of wish that it continued all the way around. And again, but again, that's sort of like just a minor pick with that. And moving on back, wait, sorry, I forgot. We're also reviewing like with the next head. Except, of course, we have an Andrew Garfield head, which I think works very well for this one. So, as you can see, like like his likeness matches up pretty well. He's even got a little bit of facial hair in her hair, and the hairpiece is a updated hair that I did. I originally had him with the short spiky hair, but I decided to like that doesn't. It's accurate, but that was for like amazing, like more of Amazing Spider-Man 1. I want to add this more to the current movie. So I decided to switch it out, with one of these hair pieces, give it a little sanding, a little bit of repaint, and it looks very, very good. Very good. And like Tom Holland head, we move this over to the back, we get the sort of like more depressed face. I think this was more primarily used for like for screenshots of if wanted to replicate scenes like the failure to save Gwen, or I guess like some of his more emotional moments that he had in the movie. But it actually is pretty accurate to Andrew's likeness. It's still really, really cool. And overall, it's just amazing. No pun intended. And overall with this figure, I think it looks really, really cool. Again, I prefer like pad printing a bit more than UV printing, but it works pretty well. With this. With the printing that it is presented on this is super phenomenal. I'm always amazed with like when printing like goes on in areas that I wouldn't even really expect it, to, but it's still like really, really cool, and overall just pretty fantastic. I still like this figure, and I kind of hope that we get to see at least one more portrayal of like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, and sort of like I guess like a proper conclusion to like his Amazing Spider-Man run. And even if we don't, I think No Way Home did that as sort of like a grand finale that like this is like the last run for Spider-Man. So if that is, then I think like it will start out very, very well. Next up on our list is the OG Raimiverse Toby Maguire Spider-Man. This figure was definitely special for me to go back to as you guys know, this Spidey was a callback to my childhood, to like years growing up. Obviously, all of them are my favorite Spider-Man. I love each and every one of their portrayals. But Toby Maguire was like my first Spider-Man, I remember growing up years ago as a kid. So to actually go back to this figure and to do a new version of this one was definitely special. So the base of the figure is the second figure that was done by Fig Fab Labs, and they did an amazing job at this figure. Like the printing continues on with the sides, with the legs, I do question of like the sort of like yellow. The yellowish, I guess it was like a false in the printing like when it came to printing up the arms. I did thought about like going and trying to fix it, but I didn't want to accidentally like ruin the printing in that one, to accidentally ruin the webbing in that one, because it's so small, because it's such a small detailing. So that's something that I just chose to like just ignore it and to just move on with the rest. As you can see, like the printing continues on with the back as well as like with the spider detailing. Same thing with the muscles, looks really, really good. Printing, same thing with the legs, that they can extend forward, but it's not fully all the way around at the top of the legs. I kind of wish it was, so it would blend in more if I wanted to like put them in poses, but that's okay. I can use Photoshop to sort of fix that. And as you can see, like he's got a new finally updated head. This is actually something that has long been overdue. Sorry, I'm repositioning the pendulum and the pedestal pendulum. What am I saying? But the head is a long overdue upgrade. Okay, great. So for those of you who don't know, my original like Spider-Man head that I did when I was first making Spidey figures, I did the original based off of like the classic, I say 2002 Spider-Man minifigure. That was the figure that I did, that I painted up with the arms, painted up with the legs, and swap it out with the heads. And for a long time, I was alright with that. But looking back at that now, I honestly felt that like there needs to be an upgrade for this. But I didn't want to use that head. I didn't want to use it anymore. I chose to like, no, I need to, if I'm going to do a new version altogether, I need to restart with the head completely. And this is probably my favorite Spidey head that I've printed out, that I painted up. I really like how this looks. This looks like the silver webbing, as you can see, like goes all the way around with the head. And the head like onto the back. The lenses are probably my favorites. This is probably my favorite that I've done And then I used a gunmetal silver as the outlining for the lenses to blend that in, and came back in with the white paint, and this looks really cool. It really captures up with the suit's likeness, like this, like in the movie, and it looks really, really cool. I really love it. It's definitely a nice upgrade from how I originally started off with this guy. And I was this guy. So moving on with that, like, I'll go ahead and, since I've done it with the other guys, I'll go ahead and show, like, the original head. So as you can see, like, with the original one with the printed one, same thing as before, like, no printing on the back. In the back, a little bit sad about that, but otherwise can move on. I did think, though, that this one in particular, they wound up, like, printing up some more figures for, like, the official storefront, but the printing on the head, it's a little bit too high, especially with the eyes. They're a little bit off-centered. I'm not too concerned about that. But that was sort of like I guess it was like a force of misprint, which is known to happen. With like stuff like this. And so not too concerned about that. All right, let's move that aside and finally show off Toby Maguire's likeness as Peter Parker, which this looks really, really cool. Really cool. Same thing with the Andrew Garfield head. I grabbed a spare hairpiece that I had, painted up brown, brown detailing added into it, and this looks really cool. Really cool. This definitely captures Toby Maguire's likeness. Like this, like on the front, which you can see is sort of like his like casual / neutral expression. And then, like before, is double-sided. So we'll go ahead and remove that. And move this onto the back. We could get like the expression of sort of like not really more of anger. I guess it would be like more the determination, especially this would be more accurate to the train scene in Spider-Man 2 when he's like pulling it and to try and get it to stop. That's what this reminds me of. Which again actually matches up pretty well with the likeness, with Toby's likeness. So if you definitely wanted to do like some photo edits, this would probably be the head to go with. And overall is pretty much with this figure. This is probably my favorite because again, it's such a callback to like nostalgia of growing up, of seeing like these Spider-Man movies, growing up as a kid, and to see Toby Maguire again, like in the suit, back in action again. I honestly don't really care if they do go back to at least one more movie with Toby Maguire as Spider-Man. I wouldn't mind that. I think it'd be pretty cool to give it a more official closing off to it. But if they don't, I feel that like No Way Home gave that final conclusion. Same thing with Andrew Garfield's Spidey. But overall, it was so cool to see him on the screen again, back in action, back in the suit, and was just really, really fantastic. So before we end the showcase off, I figured I'd show ahead a couple of extra Spider-Man that I made. So here we have a new updated version of the Far From Home suits that this time I used an actual official LEGO design for Far From Home. I used the Homecoming suit as the base template for it, but decided to go ahead and make a new rendition of it. Like, as you can see, like, it was just a quick job with, like, just some added paint on the legs, these new printed arms from Farstar Toys, and a new updated painted head with much smaller lenses. That was one of the problems that I had with the first head. Was the lenses were too big, so I shrunk them down to a new proper size for them. I'm still working on new ideas for Spider-Man heads. And moving that aside, we got like this other head that this wasn't one of the commission orders, but I did decide to go ahead and purchase this from Fig 5 Labs, what they call the Advance suit. And the Advance suit, this was the suit that, spoilers if anybody who hasn't seen the movie, this is the suit that was worn by Peter by the end of Far From Home, with the new updated design of it. And it's sort of a callback that when you look at the suit on the movie, it's like a mix between, it's like not only a mix between like the Raimi-verse and the Weebverse and the Webverse suits, but it's also sort of a callback to the classic Spider-Man cartoons with like the design and the coloration of it, and it looks really, really cool. I didn't make this figure because since it appeared at the very end of the movie, there were like little to no good screen angles to like get good references of the suit. So I went ahead and just like sort of cut that out. But I did like the design that Fig 5 Labs approached with the suit. So I decided to go ahead and purchase one of these guys. And I think it looks pretty cool. it looks pretty cool. And cool, like, again, with the printing and everything, like, just about the same, but I do like how it expands more around with the suit, and this one actually has webbing detailing on, like, the top of the shoulders. I don't know why the other two don't, you know, but it's still okay. Okay, like, this still looks pretty cool. It looks pretty cool, and overall, like, a pretty cool minifigure to make. And with all of that said and done, that is going to be it for this episode of LEGO Arts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, this is a really fun showcase to do that. These figures came out great. I love how Fit Fiber Labs did like 3D Spideys. Spideys, they did fantastic work. It was overall really fun to do. Like, without diving too deep into like the full review of like No Way Home, I loved it. I loved watching the movie. It was so amazing to see like each and every one of these Spideys from different movies, different universes joining together in this grand adventure. The callbacks, the references from here and there, and the fact of how like according to them, when they were doing the behind the scenes, the first scene that they actually shot was a recreation of the Spider-Man pointing meme, which is really awesome, and it was just so cool. I loved the movie altogether, and is definitely one of my top favorite Spider-Man movies as a whole. Now, onto the other figures, without spoiling too much of it, the next episode is going to be part 2 of No Way Home, and that one will be featuring Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, and Electro. That one will be pushed back a bit because I still need to finish up like the overall work on Electro. He's gonna be having a lot of work done because I still need to finish up him. I'm about 50% way with the Lizard. I still need to do like a little bit of paintwork on him, and he should be good to go. And then after that, we'll be able to finish up part 2, and part 3 of the grand showcase as a whole. Also, in the meantime, I'm still working on the other projects, but projects have been lately going on hold because of like back order stuff, and waiting for specific parts to arrive. But I am working with the best of my abilities, and still trying to keep up with like as best stuff as I can go. But overall, that is going to be it. So, if you guys would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification to be able to work a lot of space, like products, and with that, I'm so fun. So overall, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys next time in the next video. Bye-bye!